It's Tuesday, November 29. In the headlines, Prime Minister Andrew Holness hints at new states of public emergency. Regionally, Guyana celebrates National Week of Persons Living with Disabilities. Internationally, UK Museum returns looted Benin bronzes to Nigeria. And in sports, an update on Qatar FIFA World Cup 2022. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaicans could see more states of public emergencies being declared in the near future. The regulations failed to get a nod from the Senate last Friday, so the current SOEs will expire at midnight Tuesday. Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Monday restated the government's position during a tour of SOE checkpoints in Area 4.
It is certainly being contemplated by the government to declare a new state of public emergency. It is well within our constitution so to do, to make a declaration under new circumstances and with new advice. We are watching the situation very carefully to see whether or not there are any adverse changes as a result of the SOE coming to an end.
He says the government would make its decision soon.
The leader of the opposition is clutching at straws to defend an indefensible position, that they did not support a measure that will save lives, proven to save lives. And secondly, they are not supporting our security forces in giving them the force multiplier effect of having the JCF being able to operate independently, which gives the great advantage of greater use of division of labor, particularly coming into the Christmas season when the security forces, the JCF in particular, will have a tremendous call on its resources to maintain public order and peace within communities.
According to Mr. Holness, members of the security forces and people in communities that have been under SOEs say the measures work.
They have saved lives. In this entire area, police division, we have only had 2 murders in the 2 weeks of the SOEs. This coming from sometimes in excess of 30 murders.
According to JIS, a state of public emergency is a period during which a government declares that a public emergency exists and is empowered to enforce actions and policies not normally permitted in order to gain control of the situation. Public emergencies can arise as a result of occurrences including, but not limited to, natural disasters, catastrophic fire, outbreak of infection, drastic increase in crime. When an SOE is called, the government grants the security forces temporary additional powers. These include powers of search of a person or building without a warrant, powers of arrest and detention for up to 7 days without a warrant, power to curtail operating hours of businesses. Invest Jamaica 2022 Business Investment Conference starts today, November 29. The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, in association with JAMPRO, will partner with the Interdevelopment Bank of Jamaica to host the 2-day conference. Senator Auburn Hill delivered welcoming remarks this morning.
Here's just a taste of the investments that we're asking you to look at before I sit down. The Caymanas Economic Zone, about 650 acres right next to the port, a stone's throw away from the port. Some of the best lands you can have in Jamaica. A master developer could get as long as 50 years lease on that property. They could negotiate with the Jamaica Special Economic Zone that all the rental income that comes from selling space to logistics operators would be tax-free. Any other income that you get from investing in shares or real estate outside of a property would be taxed at 12.5%. We trust you will have an excellent time here in Jamaica, and you will decide to invest in Jamaica. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Invest Jamaica 2022. We're happy to have you.
The two-day conference is intended to present investment opportunities and projects, bringing together international investors alongside local, public and private sector representatives. Focus areas include the global digital services sector, manufacturing, agribusiness, tourism, special economic zones, and logistics. The Agriculture and Fisheries Ministry is working with the Ministry of Education and Youth to start the conversation on how teachers can influence students on how to grow smart, eat smart. Portfolio Minister Pernell Charles Jr. disclosed the details of the initiative during his keynote address at the Eat Jamaican Day Expo in Kingston on November 25. As such, a conference dubbed A Conversation with the Minister is being hosted by the Jamaica 4-H clubs at the Shortwood Teachers College in Kingston on November 29. Minister Charles will use the medium to outline to educators the purpose and intended outcomes of the Grow Smart, Eat Smart campaign and how they can play a role in becoming ambassadors of the national movement. Teachers from over 150 institutions will be encouraged to use agriculture, science, and food and nutrition in their curricula. Time now for the business report. Maya Chung is filling in for Danita Rodney.
The Grace Kennedy Group has reported a revenue increase of 12.2% or $11.7 billion over the corresponding period in 2021, surpassing the $100 billion target the company previously set to mark its 100th anniversary. Grace Kennedy's CEO Don Waby says the company is, quote, significantly above that target with 3 months to spare in its financial year.
I'm sure many of you recall that a few years ago we had set ourselves a target of $100 billion by 2022, our 100th anniversary. Well, we are significantly above that target now, as you can see. We have a full quarter left in 2022 and we're already at $107.4 billion, up 12.2%.
Speaking at the recent investor briefing, Mr. Waby gave a geographic breakdown of revenue. Mr. Waby says despite the percentage of profit in Jamaica going down slightly compared to outside, both areas are showing good performances.
If you look at the chart to my right, you'll see that 55.3% of our revenue is in Jamaica and the rest is outside of Jamaica. Both inside and outside of Jamaica, revenues are growing quite well. However, for the first 9 months of 2022, Jamaica is growing at a faster rate than our overseas businesses. In terms of profitability, not as good as revenue. We made $7.7 billion in profits, which was something that we are very proud of. However, if you look at our figure compared to the previous year, we are down 9.4%. So 7.7 billion in profits, or we are down 9.4%. Inside Jamaica, you'd notice a reversal. We have made more profits outside of Jamaica, 47%, compared to inside Jamaica at 53%.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, November 28, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.76. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.56. The pound sterling traded for $188.12, and the euro sold for an average of $163.73. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Monday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 767.80 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 18.42 points to close at over 3,000 units. The combined market index declined by 884.23 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All-Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 1,072.14 points to close at over 300,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 104 stocks, of which 40 advanced, 50 declined, and 14 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, Edufocal Limited, and Epley Limited 5% preference shares. The overall volume leaders were JMMB Group Limited 7.35% cumulative redeemable preference share with 3,663,043 units. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 1,730,214 units. Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with 1,616,748 units. In regional stocks on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, Clico Investment Fund was the only active security, posting a volume of 4,554 shares. The Barbados Stock Exchange saw Goddard Enterprise Limited as the sole security, trading 163 shares. In international business, cryptocurrency lender BlockFi has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, the latest industry casualty after the firm was hurt by exposure to the spectacular collapse of the FTX exchange earlier this month.
Another cryptocurrency firm with ties to FTX has fallen. BlockFi filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in a New Jersey court on Monday. It's the latest casualty in the industry following the spectacular collapse of the FTX exchange earlier this month. BlockFi was particularly entangled with the exchange. The firm said its substantial exposure through loans to Alameda, a crypto trading firm affiliated with FTX, had sparked a liquidity crisis. It also had cryptocurrencies held on FTX's platform that became trapped there. In the filing, BlockFi listed its assets and liabilities as being between $1 to $10 billion, with more than 100,000 creditors. The filing comes as crypto prices have plummeted. The price of Bitcoin, the most popular digital currency, is down more than 70% from a 2021 peak. BlockFi on Monday also sued a holding company for the FTX founder, Sam Bankman-Fried. It is seeking to recover shares in Robinhood that had allegedly been pledged as collateral just days before FTX collapsed. BlockFi's first bankruptcy hearing is scheduled to take place on Tuesday.
In market data for oil prices jumped by 3% on Tuesday on hopes for a relaxation of China's strict COVID-19 controls after rare protests in Chinese cities over the weekend. Brent crude futures gained $2.50 to move to $85.69 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate WTI crude futures rose by $1.98 to move to $79.22 per barrel. That was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Maya Chang.
In regional news, in Guyana, the National Week of Persons with Disabilities was officially launched on Monday with a bumper sticker drive at the Ptolemy Reed Rehabilitation Center in Georgetown. Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony told the newsroom that activities for the week are aimed at raising awareness about persons living with disabilities.
We launched a bumper sticker campaign, and so hopefully people can get the stickers, put them on their vehicle, and help to raise awareness as it pertains to people living with disability. So it talks about inclusiveness, it talks about respect, and so forth. So this is one campaign that we have. In addition to this campaign, we'll be showcasing a lot of talent among people with disability late in the week because they have a concert at the cultural center. But generally over the last year or so, the government of Guyana has taken a lot of initiatives in terms of assisting people with disability. You would recall the grant that the President announced and that was put in effect by the Ministry of Human Services. In the Ministry of Health, we have a number of initiatives that we ourselves are doing. So apart from the Talmareed, where we do a lot of rehab of persons with disability, we have started programs such as the Child Psychiatry Program to help detect persons who might have autism or on that autistic spectrum. And that then allows us to assist these persons in a more holistic way. And so we have also built a classroom here where we can assist autistic students. And we are going to expand this into other regions as we see the need developing. We also have a number of programs where people might need prosthetic limbs, whether it's a foot or a hand, and we have a workshop here. Unfortunately, we have to charge a fee, but we are hoping that we can get that down to zero as early as possible. So this is something that we've been working on. This year, for persons with hearing impairment, we have been able to reduce that cost to zero. So instead of people having to pay $65,000, they now get the hearing aid free of cost. So there are many initiatives like this, and I think the main thing here is that it's making a big impact on the lives of persons living with these challenges.
In the Bahamas, during an address to the nation on Sunday, Attorney General Ryan Pinder laid out the government's position on the ongoing FTX saga, while also slamming critics. More from our news.
The AG addressed the FTX collapse during a televised national address on Sunday, where he defended the government's response to the collapse of FTX. He also launched a scathing attack on those he says are spreading false information about the process.
Any attempt to lay the entirety of this debacle at the feet of the Bahamas because FTX is headquartered here would be a gross oversimplification of reality. And it is deeply misguided to conclude that reluctance to communicate the details of an active investigation means that nothing is happening. In fact, the government's discretion stems from how seriously we take our commitment to the rule of law and the independence of the securities regulator in the Bahamas.
Now, earlier this month, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas froze FTX assets and applied to the Supreme Court to put the company into liquidation. Pinder says government found some of the assertions on the FTX matter shocking.
We have been shocked at the ignorance of those who assert that FTX came to the Bahamas because they did not want to submit to regulatory scrutiny. In fact, the world is full of countries in which there is no legislative or regulatory authority over the crypto and digital asset business. But I must say the Bahamas is not one of these countries.
In Trinidad and Tobago, 11 out of 14 corporations have been affected by flooding events up to noon on Monday, following 5 days of significant rainfall. This from Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Faris Alwari, in an update on Monday. He said the month of November has so far seen 190% of rainfall compared to the normal average for that month, with Tobago also seeing in excess of 100. Sanilala has more.
Persistent rainfall continued to exacerbate river levels, with at least 83 flooding events reported up to noon on Monday. Minister of Rural Development and Local Government Faris Alwari said 137 significant landslips, 31 fallen trees, and numerous reports of downed power lines were also recorded.
We've deployed assets from corporations that are not heavily affected to other other corporations.
At 11 a.m., the Notarupuch, Kunapo and Caroni rivers were over 80% capacity, with El Carmen at 100%. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez said TNT crews have been mobilized to treat with power outages, but noted some challenges.
As a result of flooded conditions, it is very impossible or very difficult for the Commission to go into Las Lomas number 1 to restore the electricity supply. However, crews continue to be mobilized.
At least 16 water treatment plants were out of operation due to rising water and persistent rainfall, but Mr. Gonzalez assured that everything is being done for full restoration, especially those served from the Aripo area.
Before I walked into this news conference, I saw crews going into some of the difficult, treacherous areas in the Aripo area to restore that 16-inch major transmission line.
Meanwhile, Works Minister Rohan Sirna noted several reports of landslips, especially on the Lady Young Road, and also refuted claims that pumps were not working.
I do not have any report of any area that pumps are not working. And you said about Bamboo 2, we have 3 pumps in Bamboo 2, 2 working. Remember, these are mechanical pumps, so yesterday they may have had an issue for about an hour.
National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines shared that 34 people were rescued by the TNT Fire Service after they became stranded near Calipe over the weekend.
In Antigua and Barbuda, a United Nations Children's Fund project continues to hear the opinions of students. Ursula Charles Jr. has a report on a new phase of the project focusing on children and elections.
UNICEF Eastern Caribbean is continuing its Amplifying Children's Voices in the Electoral Cycle campaign right here across Antigua-Barbuda. The initiative sees school-aged children voice their opinions on politicized issues in this country. UNICEF's Program Officer Jamil Lee explains the process.
Across the nation in our public and private schools, our children have been participating in polling. They've been looking at issues of education, issues of access to healthy school meals, extracurricular activities, and they're raising their voices on the issues and priority areas that are of concern to them ahead of the election.
According to Lee, this is an important phase in the overall administration of the project.
Last week we ran some focus groups and we spoke to about 200 children who gave us the priority concerns, and today is important as the second phase because the children across Antigua and Barbuda is participating and they are validating the information that has been received.
If you're a student 17 years or younger, you may register to participate in the U-Report stage by sending the word JOIN via WhatsApp to 1758-287-2124. After being verified, you should send the word VOICE to gain access to the poll. A major part of the initiative will see students present their overall findings to the leaders of the country's main political parties.
This is ahead of the roundtable discussion that we will be having with political leaders from all of the parties as they prepare themselves for elections.
That roundtable is scheduled for January 9 next year.
In international news, a London museum is returning its collection of 72 Benin artifacts, the first institution in the UK to do so on such a scale. British soldiers stole thousands of artifacts in the late 19th century from the Kingdom of Benin, which is now in Nigeria. In recent years, museums in Germany, France, and the US have repatriated artifacts looted during colonial wars. More from Al Jazeera News.
A major moment in a long campaign. In 1897, British soldiers stole thousands of finely wrought artefacts like this from the then Kingdom of Benin in modern-day Nigeria. Now, London's Horniman Museum is returning these 6 pieces and signing over the ownership of the 66 other so-called Benin bronzes in its collection.
To enable these objects to be displayed in museums for people to see and people from outside the country to come and see in the context of where they have been looted is a significant moment for us.
For now, there are 6 deliberate gaps in the museum's display cases. More will follow, with plans for a significant number of artefacts to remain on an extended loan from the Nigerian government. It is here at the British Museum where the largest single collection of artefacts taken from Benin remains, more than 900 individual objects. The museum says it wants to share its collection as widely as possible. It isn't, though, talking about returning them. One major stumbling block is written into British law, a 1963 Act of Parliament forbidding the museum from disposing of its exhibits, with just a few clearly defined exceptions. In a statement, the museum emphasised its collaborative work in Nigeria, saying, "We actively engage with partners through the Benin Dialogue Group and the Digital Benin Initiative, while research and cultural exchange initiatives are also key priorities." But in recent years, other institutions in Scotland, France, Germany and elsewhere have been returning items from their Benin bronze collections, something Barnaby Phillips, author of a recent history of the bronzes, says has left the British Museum increasingly isolated.
Remember that an institution like the British Museum is also under pressure from other areas. There's a British government with its own interest. There are other significant national museums in this country like the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Royal Collection, all of which might be, I guess you would say, more conservatively inclined, and they too can exert their pressure and influence on the British Museum.
Over the years, the debate has taken in concerns over security and conservation in Nigeria, but increasingly it's become one about justice and restoration. Nigeria's cultural custodians say it's time for British institutions and British politicians to right a historical wrong.
With warm matches in the books, the West Indies now focus on the first test of their Australia tour. World-ranked all-rounder Jason Holder spoke with the media at the famed WAC ground ahead of Tuesday's encounter.
With Test Series wins versus England and Bangladesh earlier this year, the West Indies will be aiming to close out 2022 with a winning record when they take on the world's #1 ranked Test team at the Perth Stadium. Jason Holder expressed his thoughts on the upcoming encounter.
It will be a test. We've been tested in the past and the guys have withstood quite a few tests that we've been put up to. It's just important for guys to understand the conditions. I think that's really, really important. Know what strokes you can get away with, know what strokes you probably need to shelf, and just building innings. I just think it's important that we take it day by day. We've come here to play 10 solid days of cricket, and as I said before, we just got to stick together and make sure that we're pulling each other along and making sure that we're doing it together. I think if you look at the nucleus in this test team, I think it's been together for the last 5-6 years. We've had obviously 1 or 2 fit players going in and some coming out, but for the most part it's been together for the last couple of years, I think, which is really important in comparison to the other sides. Probably a little bit more chopping and changing when it comes to those 2 particular formats. But again, our focus here now is Test cricket. We put the T20 World Cup behind us, and we're just trying to focus on what we have at it.
Fast bowler Alzari Joseph will be a key component in the effort versus the Australians, along with strike partner Jaden Seals.
He's got pace. He's very aggressive at times too, and he's probably going to be the guy who reacts same force and be a little bit more aggressive. I think Jaden has a lot of skill as well too. He started really well in his Test career so far, so I'm looking forward to great things from the two of them.
The all-rounder was clear on his role and what the team has to do to achieve success.
Do the hard yards, put in some extra miles for the team. Obviously be one of the guys to keep things pretty tidy and also pick wickets up. So, look, whatever the captain needs from me, I'm looking to put my hand up and do. It's really important that we stick together as a side and make sure that we're playing well together and support each other, because there's nobody else here to support us really. We'll get obviously 1 or 2 fans coming down, but more or less we're here, as a small unit. So it's just important for me and the other guys to rally behind one another and make sure that we're playing well as a unit.
The first test begins at 10:20 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time on Tuesday. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sport.
In sports, the nation's national footballers now have a new team bus. Stewart's Automotive Group, SAG, has given a bus to the Jamaica Football Federation for the players. The bus was donated to the JFF by Jamaica Equipment Company, a subsidiary of SAG. JFF President Michael Ricketts says the gift represents a long partnership between the body and SAG, for which he is proud of and grateful.
Stewart's been a partner with the JFF for decades. We have some vehicles that Stewart would have given to us, and if you look at them, you could guess how long and how old this relationship has been. But we are just very, very excited at the prospects.
It seats 38 passengers and has been wrapped in decals representing the Jamaica Football Federation's logo. Time now for the Qatar FIFA World Cup update. On Monday, Portugal blanked Uruguay 2-0. On Tuesday, as at news time, Netherlands won their match against Qatar 2-0 and Senegal beat Ecuador 2-1. And that's the news. Thanks so much for watching.